Welcome back to another episode of We Love Pets. Guys, we have a great guest in studio with us, but if you guys want to join the conversation, please feel free to reach out to us on all the social media platforms using the hashtag We Love Pets. You can reach out to Rob at Pet World Insider on all those platforms, or you can reach out to me at Producer Derek, and we'll be more than happy to get your questions. And if not, get the comments down, put your comments down in the section below, like the video, and just be part of the conversation with us. So our guest today is Diane Rose-Solomon. You've written some great books. I know Rob's kid loves the children's books that you gave him back when we first met you guys. But you've got a new book, and we want to talk about that. But before we get to the books, we want to kind of check your credentials and want to make sure you love pets and why you love pets. So the first thing we always like asking our guests is, what is your pet history? What was your first pet? When did it all start, kind of? So let's go into that.
Well, we had dogs growing up, and I didn't really connect with our dog. We had a Schnauzer, a very sweet dog, but he was kind of interested in being over there, so I never really felt a connection. In fact, my best friend had a big dog who, when I would walk in the house, come flying towards me, and I was a little girl, and it was a big dog, and I was terrified. So I was kind of terrified of big dogs and didn't really connect with our little dog. So it was kind of, like, I'm such a dog person now. When did this transition happen? Well, there was a cat somewhere in between then, and we found this cat that was hanging around our house, and she'd been in a fight, and we ended up taking her in, and she was she was a he, actually. Anyway.
That must have been one heck of a fight.
But yeah, she was a he. And he was my buddy growing up. And I told him all of my secrets. When I was in those tween years, I cried to him. He slept curled around my head, and he waited for me underneath my bed when I was at school. So we were really bonded. And then I always liked animals, but it wasn't really my thing until something clicked. And I think it was actually on my honeymoon. And my husband kept playing with these two dogs that were at the hotel. And they were great dogs. I loved them too. But I was like, come on, honey, we got to go catch the boat. And he's like, I am friend to all dogs. I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. Like, he's declared that he's friend to all dogs. And it's something that kind of stuck with me. And I don't know when it really happened for me, but that it happened for me too. I guess it really happened for me when we decided we weren't quite, somewhere around married time, we were going to get a dog. And we were going to go buy a golden retriever. That was our breed of choice. I love golden retrievers. And at the 11th hour, we were going to find a breeder, but a friend called us and said, I just found a dog on a field. I was playing soccer, and the soccer game ended, and I thought it was somebody's dog, and it was his puppy, and he was sniffing around the garbage, and he was nobody's puppy, and I realized that he had a choke chain on that was too tight. Yeah, pretty sad. And so he brought him home, and he gave him some food, and he called my husband, because he and my husband worked together, and said, I knew that you guys were thinking about getting a dog. Did you already get a dog? Because I found this dog. I don't know what to do with this dog. Would you take this dog? You should have seen my body language. I'm thinking, dirty, disgusting street dog. I don't want this dog. I want to go pick out a dog from a breeder. And so I was like, fine, but we're just looking. I was really a little snotty about it. And my husband took a look at the puppy, because remember, he's friends to all dogs. I wasn't convinced yet. And he brought the puppy home the next day, and I think that was my changing day. And I took one look at this puppy, and I fell in love. And even if I had known what a shelter was at the time, because this is like 21 years ago, I didn't even know that animal shelters existed. It was either you go to a breeder or you don't have a dog. I didn't know that there was this whole world of animal rescue that was happening, and that at the time that there was between 12 and 16 million animals being euthanized in the shelters at that time. So I said, okay, we'll adopt this dog. I don't even know if I use that word. We'll keep this dog. And I fell in love. It was kind of instantaneous. And that's when I learned about adoption and animal rescue and how many animals there were that were homeless. And I said, I want to make a difference because this dog has changed my life at this point. I fell so deeply in love. And what about all these other dogs that could use homes?
Yeah. Well, and it's amazing, too, because we experience this all the time where we've been moved into action by a pet that's moved us, which is why we asked the question. But to see where everybody goes with it, it's really inspiring. They always say there are no throwaways.
Yeah.
There's just maybe not the right fit.
Right.
And to find that fit and to have that remarkable change and crossover, that's awesome.
It was amazing, and I ended up meeting people. I met somebody really soon after that. I don't even know who introduced us. Again, it's 21 years ago. Her name is Sandra May, and she had an organization that did some rescue and some medical aid for dogs, and it's called Animal Guardian Society. And so we were connected, and I was helping her doing some fundraising. She had this event called Bowling for Pets, and I'd bring my friends, and we'd help raise a lot of money. And then I ended up joining her board of directors for a number of years. So I really got to learn about that whole world. And it was heartbreaking to me when you heard the numbers and what was going on. And it still is. It's just that there's so much more education now that the numbers have come down, but there's still a lot of work to be done in
Sure.
that world. But along that time, my husband found two dogs in the street, actually. He called me. He's like, "What do I do?" I'm like, "Put them in the car, bring them home." And they weren't anybody's. We put signs up and made sure they didn't. But, one had been hit by a car, and they had fleas. And you find these dogs. It's pretty obvious that nobody's been caring for them for a while.
Yeah.
And you do your due diligence to make sure that they don't belong to somebody. Now with microchipping, it certainly makes it a lot easier to do that. But we kept one of those dogs. A friend adopted another one, and we were fostering another dog at the time. We had 2 cats. It was kind of a full house for a bit.
Wow.
Tell us a little bit. Excuse me. Tell us a little bit about the dog that inspired the children's books. Let's go into that a little bit.
That was JJ. That was the very first dog.
Okay.
And it was maybe 5 years ago when I was no longer on the board at AGS, and I had become a certified humane education specialist through the Humane Society. They have a whole university, like who knew? Yeah. And so I became a certified humane education specialist, but I wanted to kind of put it all together. And how could I start telling my story? Because I felt like there's a lot of people who would adopt if they just had a little bit of information.
Yeah,
it's just,
sure.
Yeah. There's a stigma. There's definitely a stigma that you think
and there's
about.
also I didn't even know about it. I mean, a lot more people even know about it now, but it's you especially if you grew up with a certain breed, you're sort of like, I'm going to go to a breeder, and a lot of people don't even realize you can get a perfect bred dog, the purebred dog, even through a rescue organization or even at the shelter.
Yeah, both of my purebred huskies have been from shelters, and I mean, we didn't care if they were mixed, but they just happened to be purebred. So yeah.
Exactly. So you find amazing dogs that find you ultimately, but JJ was the inspiration for me to write the very first book. That's the sequel, JJ the American Street Dog, which is over there.
Back here.
Yeah. And
Got them all over.
Yeah, and it's just a fictionalized version of my story, and I added a little girl into it. I didn't actually have a little girl when I wrote it, just to make it a little bit more approachable for kids. And so I wrote that book, and then I wrote a whole series around it, and there's the sequel, JJ Goes to Puppy Class, because what's one of the first things you want to do when you get a new dog?
Just train them and make sure. Yeah.
Train them and make sure that they're doing what you expect of them in your home, so that you don't take them back to the shelter. I mean, that's a lot of reason why they go back to the shelter. And you finally get them out of the shelter. We don't want to send them back to the shelter. It's stressful enough as it is.
Right. So we've got a new book.
Yes.
I want to know the inspiration for the new book and what kind of got you going that direction, because this is not necessarily a child's book.
It's
This
not
is
children's.
this is an educational book for all of us to learn from and
Right.
be able to get some great information there. So what was the inspiration to move on to that endeavor?
Well, as I became a certified humane education specialist and wrote these books and started to go to schools and speak about compassion and responsibility and kindness around the kids' books, people knew that this is what I was doing, and I became kind of the local expert. And when people had questions, they would call me. My dog, this is happening with my dog. I don't know what to do. Okay, here's where you should go.
That happens for us too. Like we're like, we do pet stuff. I'm not the expert. Don't.
Yeah.
It is funny how you get sucked in. You know, I started off as their photographer and quickly became their
The expert.
advisor.
Yeah, exactly.
So it definitely But I think that's a good thing too, because they were asking questions that I wanted to know, and I was more than happy to pick up a phone and call an expert that I knew to get that.
And get them down here to do an interview so that we can.
Well, that too. Yeah. That always helps. But yeah.
Well, one of the things I pride myself on is often not knowing the answer, but knowing who to call.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Exactly.
Who do you call? So I kept having the answers of who to call when people would ask me these questions, or what product to get, or what, again, just from having experience and from knowing people and from whatnot. So I put it all in a book. And then, as I'm a member of the Women in the Pet Industry Network, WIPN. And so
I'm a member as well, by the way.
Yay!
It is true.
Yes. And I reached out to the group, and because it's all pet professionals.
Yep.
And I have so many contributors, pet professionals and veterinarians and organizations and pet parents who have all helped me out with this book. This is a collaborative book for sure. It's not me at all. It's me pulling it all together with a lot of expert advice in it, and it takes you through the process. So a lot of people are not even sure if they're ready for a dog. So that's the very first chapter. Am I even ready? There's a questionnaire.
Yep.
Am I even ready?
That's, a good point. Most people, they make that mistake of oh, here's a gift for a dog. That's not the way to go. There's a whole process to know, are you ready? And I think that's a real good thing to put in the forefront and make sure people are aware of those kind of things.
And
So
there's a lot of questions to ask yourself. Am I in a rental where they allow dogs?
Yeah.
There's, but they're all there.
Well, and are there breed laws? I always say it's too easy to become a pet parent because you can decide in an instant, oh, I want to, and you are. There's not enough planning. There's not enough, as you said, a checklist. I love this. I mean, that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about what you did was pump the brakes a little bit. And instead of just, okay, here's that, and then you're on your own, you did walk them through, are you ready? Now that you've done it, and so on and so on.
Right.
I really talk about the modules, because I think that's a great part of this book that's going to serve folks. It's not just when you get a puppy, it's from start to the golden years.
Yeah, it's like pre,
Right.
and then during, and then post. So the first module, it's broken up into 5 modules, so it's really digestible. And what's cool about it is if somebody isn't quite ready, or they're not sure if they're ready, they can stop right there at the very first module. But, oh, you know what? I can't really answer those questions. Maybe I'm not ready. Rethink this. But let's say you get past module 1 and you've decided that you're ready for a new dog. Module 2 is, where do I even go? How do I go about finding rescue organizations or shelters in my area, or looking at them online? Adopt a Pet, petfinder.com, great resources, and they can actually help you find a local shelter or rescue group without you having to do too much work. It's all listed right there. So I help the reader do that. And then, as you said, well, now what do I need to do, or what do I need to know? And there's tons of products, things you might need to know at the vet. Actually, let's backtrack a little bit. Some questions that you might need to ask and answer as you're adopting a pet at the shelter. They're going to ask you questions. What are things that you might want to be asking them? What are things you want to be looking out for? But then getting into module 3, as I started talking about a moment ago, what do I need to do? What do I need to have in order to be successful? And then, if that's enough for right now, great, you stop there until you're ready for module 4, which is, how do I integrate this dog into my lifestyle? I've got kids. How do I keep the kids safe? How do I keep the dog safe? And then module 5 is, that's good. And then module 5 is more advanced pet parenting, is what I call it, where what do you need to know maybe in the golden years? Or maybe you have a super active dog and they need a job. A lot of dogs are herding dogs or whatever, they need a job. So what are some things that you can do with your dog to make it a really successful long-term relationship?
Yeah, I want to go back one step, because I think you hit on something really important there, which is everybody goes, how do I keep the kids safe? And then you followed up with, how do I keep the dog safe? Because that's the missing component often, is the dog is reacting to something that a visitor or someone in their space is doing more often than not.
Right.
And so I love that you have both sides of it, because I think all too often we focus on one or the other, and it is a very symbiotic. Everybody's got to have an understanding of what is appropriate, what isn't appropriate.
Exactly.
So, because it only takes 1 second for it to go really wrong.
Yeah.
So.
And again, I'm not perfect.
None of us are.
None of us are.
I'm not a perfect, but we have one dog who is bitey, but we know how to deal with him. And I talk about it in the book. He's bitey. When people come over, he goes into the crate. He is not comfortable with people walking. He's the best, most loving dog, but once he gets to know people, we have a whole process.
Yep.
But this is something that we had to learn with our dog. And to keep him safe, and he's happy in the crate.
Yeah. And that's a thing that I think a lot of people fail at, is that they don't take the time to learn those other things. They just think, oh, this is a bad dog, I need to do something to get rid of this bad dog. It's not a bad dog. Each dog is different. Each dog has a different. Yeah, and so I think that's a key component to knowing, take the time. If that's, again, going back to are you ready to own a dog? And there's things and steps that have to be taken, and you have to put in time and effort to have the best return from that dog, because really, there's that give and take on both of you guys.
Yeah, years ago somebody said, why are you keeping that dog? Why don't you send him back to the shelter?
Yeah.
Because he's our dog. We love him.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to invest. We took him for training and follow-up, and we had somebody come to the house, a behaviorist, and we got help, and we utilized all the information we've got.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
No.
Maybe.
Question. Yeah.
Sometimes there is a question.
Well,
but I will jump in, though, since you're tongue-tied right now, and that is, in your experience, if there was something that you could just tap everybody on the forehead and give them that nugget of wisdom as they're going into this process, what would it be?
Patience. That's probably the biggest thing, especially in the beginning. Patience in finding the perfect pup for your family. That one of the things I write in the book is, you might find your perfect pup on day one going to the shelter, and you might not. And
such a great point.
don't rush it. Be prepared in case you do. You can jump to module 3 to read ahead a little bit. What do I might need to have? But you might not. And don't just grab the first dog because they're cute. In fact, one of the quotes in the book is from somebody in the rescue world. She said, sometimes the dog that you think is the cutest isn't necessarily the best fit for your family. And some of the advice that I've been given that I share in the book is, let some of the professionals actually help with the matchmaking.
Yeah.
And then patience once the dog comes home with you, because they're just learning how to be in a home, possibly for the first time. My father-in-law just adopted a dog 2 days ago. Actually, we had a book launch event, and we had dogs at the event available for adoption. And this dog got adopted, so it was so fantastic. But the dog they thought was house trained and isn't, and that's one of the things I wrote. Maybe the dog is house trained, but is just so nervous coming to a new home. There's a dog and 3 other cats in that home. How are you going to adjust? And let but be patient with the dog. So patience is probably my number one.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that you talk about the patience in the process, because that's something when we got Sugar, we must have been to several different events. And I had in my mind, this is the kind of dog I'm looking for. And Sugar would not have been that dog. And the irony, I always say, both dogs that, Sugar and Zoe, they picked us.
Exactly.
And neither one of them, I learned by the time we adopted Zoe, much like you said, have patience, but also you'll get that feeling beyond, oh, they're cute, because they're all cute. I mean, they're all, there's rarely any dogs I've ever seen, even the ones in the world's ugliest dog contest. I look at it and I go, they're cute. It's kind of that baby syndrome. They're all cute. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Have that patience and be open and ask questions. Boy, that is such great advice, because we're so worried about other things that we sometimes hesitate to ask the important questions.
Yeah.
I think one of the key things to take away from this book is that it's not just a one and done book. You're not just going to read it and be done. This is a book that has references that you can go back to, sources you come back to. You said there's over 100 links in there too.
Over 100 links. So in the ebook, it's kind of cool. if you're reading it on Kindle or iBooks, whatever, you can actually click on the links. There's links to articles, tons of articles. The book isn't that thick, and it's kind of designed that way so that I give you the basics, but because somebody who is an experienced pet parent, for example, might not need all the stuff in the beginning. They might just want to go. This actually is a great book for people who already have a dog.
Yeah,
there's a lot of cool information for as you move through.
It's something you're going to hold on to through the lifetime of the dog,
exactly.
for sure.
But the basics are in there, and then if you want more information, more specifics, there's an article, there's a link to an organization, there's a link to a product or a company that I'm recommending or that's really been fabulous.
Yeah, there's the resources there that allow you to get a deeper dive. Definitely,
dive for sure. But it's great because the book would be really thick if I had put everything in there. But this way, it's trim, but you can get tons more information. I mean, well over 100 links to other.
Awesome.
Nice.
So, guys, we've come to the point of the show where we like to have you guys submit questions to our dog bowl. If you guys want to submit questions to the dog bowl, you guys use the hashtag #WeLovePets. Leave a question in the comment section down below or reach out to us on all the social media platforms. You can reach out to Rob and the rest of the team here at Pet World Insider, at Pet World Insider on all the social media platforms, or you can reach out to me directly at Producer Derek. We'll get those questions in there, but feel free to join the conversation with us. But, Diane, if you will pull one of the questions out of the bowl for us, and we'll see how we can answer these ones.
Let's see. What is the one thing in the pet world I would change? Wow. Actually, something that I wrote a blog about a few weeks ago that came up recently, that within the animal rescue world, there's kind of two factions. There's the people who are with the rescue organizations, and they do an awesome job. They pull dogs out of the shelter, dogs and cats out of the shelter, and they maybe foster the dogs, or they're living in a home for a while, and they really vet out the potential pet parents. And then there's the shelters where you can just walk in and put your name down, and you can walk out with a dog. And the shelters don't have the resources to go do a home check for every home, and that makes the rescue groups really upset that the shelters aren't taking enough care to vet out the potential pet parents. And then the rescue groups are angry with the shelters, and the shelters are saying, you guys, you're not getting enough dogs placed or cats placed into homes. You're taking too long in the process, and you're turning people away. So there's these two groups who are doing amazing work, and I think they're both doing amazing work, but they're all mad at each other.
They're butting heads.
They're butting heads. Can't we all just get along? And
Sure.
I believe that there's a middle ground. So if that's the one thing I could change in this particular segment of the animal world, it's that we'd find a middle ground where everybody was just on the same page.
I think mine would probably be, I think I've answered something similar on one of our past shows, but I think it would be the continuation of education. I think knowing, like, just because you get the dog and you get like a book and you read like how the first steps of owning a dog, and that's as far as some people go with the dog, I think it's that continuing and going and looking for team sports or agilities or those kind of things with your dog to do if that's the kind of dog you have, or learning first aid and going through the motions that way and getting a little bit more educated through the lifetime of your dog. I think that's a thing I would like to change for people.
You stole mine.
Did I steal yours?
Yeah, no. I obviously I do think it's too easy to be a pet parent. And I think there's just so much information out there that conflicts that even when we are doing the research to be a better pet parent, it is sometimes hard which way or this way. I think for, today where I am going to go with it is I would just really be stressing positive interactions, and whether that's training, whether it's going to your vet, the use of
free movement.
And also it just we've seen it in the vet visits lately. Yeah. That's been a big thing. Dr. Becker's on. We see it in the training world with aggressive training versus positive reinforcement training. Again, these a lot of people give me grief. Send your emails. I don't care about the fact that I use the term pet pet parent all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I get all the legal ramifications, but again, I want to turn it up. I don't want them to be viewed as anything less than a family member, because you would never treat a family member the way that some pets are treated.
Yeah.
And so for me, I would change it so that we are having those positive interactions. None of us want to be beat down. We don't change for the long term. We change for the moment to avoid the punishment. With positive reinforcement, we learn that and we keep it going. So for me, I would like the positive, experiences, and I love to see this movement continue. And I hope we'll just all embrace that.
With you. That's great.
Yeah, I think those are all great answers. I think mine probably was number 2. I think Diane was the best answer.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
I mean, we'll give it to the guest.
He stole mine,
yeah.
so I'll give you credit, because I think I've said that once or 20 times.
So what we like to do before we close off the show, we want to give you kind of a soapbox to all the audience members that are watching the show. If there's something out there that you want people to know, some kind of piece of information that maybe you don't think they know and maybe they should, I mean, this is your moment to kind of just speak out to our audience. Yeah.
Well, 20% of book sales are always donated to animal rescue organizations. And one of the things that I'm doing is virtual fundraising days with rescue organizations. So if you're a rescue organization or connected with one or a shelter, contact me, because we can set up a day where 20% of all of my sales for all of my books on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever they go for that day are going to go to that rescue organization.
Awesome.
So it's a really cool.
Yeah, I love that.
fundraising
That's a
tool.
great idea.
Yeah, thanks. So we've actually started booking some up in the calendar in the next few months, and it's a great way to give back. Plus, getting the book out there into people's hands. If I could wave a magic wand, somebody would come and just give these out to everybody who walks through the shelter doors and walks through a rescue organization's doors, so that everybody had that information, so that it would be right there for them.
Perfect. Now, you said to get in contact with you. Now, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Probably through my website, which is www.dianerose-solomon.com. And I'm on Facebook as Diane, I think it's Diane Rose-Solomon. And I also have a business page called Pets, People, Planet Connection. And I'm on Twitter, Diane R. Solomon, and Instagram. So I'm a few different places.
All right.
So they can find you.
Yes,
They can
definitely.
find me,
Okay.
but website's great. And you can email me through the website too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today.
My pleasure.
Being here in the studio is always a pleasure having guests here talking about why we love pets. And I think your credentials are solid on the show. I think we've definitely proven that.
passed muster?
You
I think
passed
you
it,
passed.
yes.
Yeah. So, guys, thank you for joining us. If you guys want to be part of the conversation, please feel free to join us. Reach out with the hashtag We Love Pets on all the social media platforms. You can leave questions down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like the video. You can reach out to Rob at Pet World Insider and the rest of the team there, or you can reach out to me at producer Derek. But thanks again for joining us, and always love your pets, guys. So thanks again. See you next time.